building on the themes we've been talking about, we come to the book of Isaiah. Isaiah is traditionally believed to have been a prophet who lived in the 7th or 8th centuries BCE. And in the Jewish prophetic tradition, similar to the Islamic tradition with the Prophet Muhammad, the idea of becoming a prophet is a very painful process. We have Isaiah describing this vision that he has where he's in the temple and the angel Gabriel goes and takes a hot coal from the temple altar, the Holy of Holies where the sacrifices to God were made. And he brings it over and touches it on his tongue, obviously a very painful experience. And that's really symbolic of the kind of painful process through which a prophet would be able to convey God's words. And we are indeed supposed to regard the words of Isaiah not as his own, not simply divinely inspired, but literally God speaking through Isaiah. And it's quite clear from the text where, as you'll read, he says, thus saith the Lord. This is not my words. This is God speaking through me. And so we have a message delivered certainly before the destruction of the temple. So this is not sort of after the fact trying to explain what we do now that there's no temple to make sacrifices. But in this section of Isaiah, he's, or perhaps God, is not satisfied with the system of atoning for sins through sacrifice, and says very explicitly, who told you to do that? I won't accept those sacrifices anymore. And if you want to cleanse your sins, you have to do it through your own effort. That you have to put away evil and start doing good for yourself. That you have to change society. You have to take care of the orphans and the widows and do all these things to make the world a good place. That's how you can atone for your sin. And ultimately, Isaiah goes on to say that when the Jewish people as a whole succeed in this task, the whole world will be brought to a new level. There will be a kind of a messianic period where perhaps a Messiah will come and become a true king, and the whole world will look to Israel for guidance. They'll recognize the Jewish God as the true creator, and they will all mend their ways, and will enter a period of human history that there is no more war. And people take care of each other, and the world becomes the kind of divine place that God intended it to be. But the main point here is that it's up to us as human beings to bring that about. That there's a role for a Messiah to play, and we'll talk about that in a subsequent mini lecture. But the primary role is really human beings. It's not dependent on divine intervention, but rather something that we as individuals need to do. We need to fix the world for ourselves and our place within it, but collectively, from a Jewish perspective, perhaps first the Jewish people, and then following that, others will take that example and be convinced of God's divinity and make the world a better place as a whole. But that's really the primary focus of Judaism. As I said in the previous mini lecture, that there's ideas about the afterlife, but they're not really primary. The purpose of life is not just to somehow do what needs to be done so that you get to the afterlife. The purpose of human life is to be part of this larger process to make the world the divine place that it ought to be.